Here is what Mitt Romney and I will do. We will end the raid of Medicare. We will restore the promise of this program, and we will make sure that this board of bureaucrats will not mess with my mom's health care or your mom's health care.
Now, you know it is game on when the candidate starts talking about his mama and your mama. So since Paul Ryan's addition to the GOP ticket, there have been, in fact, some issues that are enjoying a genuinely robust debate about big ideas. Medicare has now been a campaign issue, in fact, campaign issue number one for a full week. Perhaps it will lead to a more substantive discussion on other issues, at least one can hope. At the table, Anthea Butler, Peter Goodman, Katon Dawson, and Jamal Simmons. So one possibility is we're going to actually talk about issues like Medicare, which is something we're talking about. The other is we're just going to go all negative, and if we go all negative, we shrink, divide, polarize the electorate. Realistically, what is going to happen in this campaign?
Look, it's hard to talk about Medicare without being a little bit negative, because for the seniors that the Democrats are trying to convince, they care about having a system that's going to take care of them. They care about their kids having a system that's going to also be able to take care of them. And if you're a 50-year-old, which falls under the Ryan Romney era, if you're a 50-year-old whose 401k has evaporated in the last few years, whose house is now underwater, whose pension has now disappeared, and now you want to tell me that we're going to take away Medicare, which is the only chance maybe I have to make sure I have health care when I'm in my senior years, that's a little bit disconcerting. And I think the Democrats are going to hammer in on that for the next few months.
Yeah, and remember, and 50 is different now than it once was, right? So at 50, you may still be paying back student loans for yourself, even as you're taking them out for your kids, right? And at 50, you may only be in your first home. I mean, it's not, 50 was at one point sort of well-established far into one's career, and that is not what 50 feels like anymore.
Let's pick off the easy part of the equation, which is the Republican half. I mean, on the Republican side, we can see a classic depressed voter turnout strategy. There's an understanding that they got nothing to talk about in terms of actual solutions to the large problems of the day, except for a return to, free market obsession, fantasy, the same sort of ideology that got us into the mess that we're in. We don't hear any real solutions, access to health care, jobs crisis. So what we have is an attack on the Democratic base. We have an attempt to beleaguer the Democratic voter, to confuse, exhaust us with negative campaign commercials. You see the desperation of, Paul Ryan, who wants to voucherize Medicare, who's launching the ultimate raid on Medicare and dismantling the social safety net, accusing President Obama of trying to dismantle Medicare. I mean, this is desperation.
And I don't take that lightly. I mean, particularly when you say that the goal is to exhaust and to suppress, because even as we hear Paul Ryan saying, we're going to get rid of bureaucrats making healthcare decisions for your mama, we do know that Republicans around the country are allowing tables of bureaucrats to make decisions about whether or not you're going to get a chance to vote, to actually cast a vote on this, right? So the suppression efforts are both active and then potentially through negative campaigning, also this kind of indirect suppression.
I mean, let's understand that if they manage to beleaguer African-American voters, and we see a 95% margin in favor of President Obama, and yet turnout drops by 5% in Ohio, in Florida, in Pennsylvania, because people say, this is a horrible advertisement for democracy. I think I'll just do something else entirely than pay attention to what's going on here. That could be pivotal.
Yeah, black folks don't tire so easily.
I was going to say,
on this one, I'm totally, so young people might totally pass out, but we got a whole song on No Ways Tired.
Exactly. And people are going to be motivated. I mean, if you've got a 91-year-old woman in Philadelphia fighting and leading this whole charge against this voter suppression, then you know that people aren't going to get tired. But I do think, the other part of this is when we're talking about how you're going to do all this stuff, it's also about lying. Okay, let's just put it on the table and say what it is. Because in part, what you have to say with the Medicaid thing is that, Medicare is that, okay, well, he's taking everything out of Medicare. The president is robbing from you to pay other people. And that's just not true. So part of what's going on is there's going to be these sort of, shifting on both sides. How are we going to play this? How are we going to do it? And then, all of this gets lost for people because you just hear this rabble-rousing instead of talking about what's actually true on each side.
In fact, let's listen to it. We've got an ad from the Obama for America campaign, and then we'll listen to one from the Romney campaign. I'll let you respond to this question of whether or not it's just negativity or is it both negativity and falsehood. So let's listen first to President Obama's ad.
And the Ryan plan? AARP says it would undermine Medicare and could lead to higher costs for seniors. And experts say Ryan's voucher plan could raise future retirees' costs more than $6,000. Get the facts.
All right, so this is President Obama telling you to get the facts. Now let's see what the Romney campaign has to say.
You paid into Medicare for years. Every paycheck. Now when you need it, Obama has cut $716 billion from Medicare. Why? To pay for Obamacare. So now the money you paid for your guaranteed health care is going to a massive new government program that's not for you.
Okay, Medicare is a massive government program. I mean, it
was designed to be one.
It just is. I mean,
what? Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, when I look at those two, I mean, obviously there's this sort of, who's telling the truth, who's got the Pinocchios, right? But it does feel to me when I listen to that second one and I hear you paid into Medicare for years in every paycheck, now you need it. That's a misinterpretation of what Medicare is. It is a big government program, and it is not a savings account. It's actually not you getting your money back out. So is that a less accurate, like just as a matter of accuracy, ad?
Well, but both of the ads, in my point, have to burn in 8 to 9 to 10 times for the voter we're talking about to try to absorb it, because those are pretty deep-thinking ads. I mean, the president has AARP in a core group that everybody's going after, one that has a lot of political juice. The Romney ad is going after different things. So I would contend that neither one of those ads is really lighting the fire out there on electoral politics.
They're both nerd ads.
There are nerd ads, and they're way deep in the weeds. I mean, the elections, and if I can show my age, the Reagan-Carter election, Jimmy Carter collapsed at Labor Day because are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Yeah.
The Bush versus Clinton, and this is the lesson of this election, and to me, Bill Clinton wouldn't let George Bush get away from the economy, period. And George Bush had raised taxes.
Yeah.
And so the base was disaffected. So Clinton went after him, brilliant politician, likable guy, wouldn't. 4 years better. So then you come, it's the economy stupid. Then you get to Obama versus McCain. McCain wasn't exactly the most energetic campaign that we could have had.
He was not, no.
And we can all disagree or disagree on Sarah Palin's role in it. But that was hope and change, and people grab. So it comes down, after all the noise, Melissa, it gets down to that one thing of what that voter at home
and what's the
said.
Thing? And
what you said, Peter,
and what is
what beats its way through.
Right. And what is the thing? So we're going to talk, I promise, we're going to talk more about what sticks.
That's right.
And we'll talk a little bit more about what sticks, and particularly we're going to add 2 new voices to the conversation, because I want to know how what sticks makes a difference to the young people in our country. That's next.